My Hero Academia, Chapter 222, Shigaraki Tomura, Distortions. So, wow, what an insane chapter this was. The past three chapters have all been fire. Horikoshi just continuing to drop these bombs on us. But this one is certainly something else. Definitely one of the more morbid chapters in the series, possibly the most morbid one we've had so far. This one's pretty damn intense. A lot of info is dropped, a lot of things revealed, so let's get into it. So we're finally getting Tomura's backstory in this chapter, and it's more or less what we, the community, expected it to be. He accidentally kills his family once his quirk manifests, but after seeing more of what actually happened, it seems that there's way more to it than what is on the surface. So in my opinion, it looks like All for One orchestrated all of this, everything that has to do with what happened in this sequence. So there's a lot of things that point to this. So it looks like All for One possibly gave Tomura the decay quirk or something like that. Or maybe Tomura didn't have a quirk at all and he gave it to him, or he took his quirk away and gave him a new one. But just based off of the doctor saying you suddenly developed a previously unheard of quirk. And then we also know that there is a huge lapse in his memory. Tomura doesn't really remember him exactly what happened leading up to him killing his family. He only really remembers the embrace of All for One and him saving him after the fact. So there's also the possibility that he's controlling Tomura at this point. All for One, either with his ability or maybe the doctor's something that he can do, they have some kind of control over young Tomura here and kind of forces him to kill his family. Because at the very first panel of this chapter, we see which I assume is one of his family members with their hand up, and they're like, "Stop it, Tenko!" So it's not like Tomura just hugged one of his family members and they died, and then they were trying to go after him and he was touching them inadvertently. It looks like he was going after them, he was legitimately trying to kill them, he was in some kind of, blacked out state possibly. And another thing that points to possible mind control or mind manipulation somehow going here is that after it is revealed to young Tomura that he killed his entire family, he has the whole crazy breakdown, and then the doctor says, "Shall I fix him?" And then All for One's like, "No." So that possibly could mean do you want me to erase his memories so that he doesn't remember killing his family because he's so destroyed over it? Either way, there's definitely something going on here. I think the memory manipulation is definitely going on here. But the mind control, that's a little debatable. Although, like I said, the first panel that we see kind of points to that. This is pretty morbid stuff here. This is one of the more savage backstories that a villain has, especially a shonen villain. And it just makes me like Tomura all that much more. He has been growing on me since the beginning, but there's big arcs in his character development that make me like him so much more. When he did Chisaki dirty at the end of that arc, that was incredible. And the way that he's just acting more boss-like and he's more in control of things makes me like him more. But now that we fully see his backstory, and it's damn, dude, you're kind of like a victim. I mean, not kind of, he is. Especially once it's fully revealed that All for One is behind all of this. He's definitely just a product of the system, and just unfortunately he was born and in the wrong place at the wrong time, because if he wasn't Nana's grandson, then he wouldn't have been targeted by All for One. But let's get into why All for One is doing this. So he's pretty much just creating a monster. He took Nana's grandson because he knew that would affect All Might, of course, and he just broke him completely, just destroyed him, and just built him up from scratch into his All Might killing successor, essentially. And it's really savage, like I said, because if you think about what he has done here, he has gone after a small kid. We don't exactly know how old he is here, but he's probably 5 or 6, somewhere around there. Brainwashes him, allegedly gives him a decay quirk, and then forces him to kill his entire family, and then makes it seem like it's part of All Might's fault because, he needs him to be against All Might. But then not only that, but he brings the pieces of his family back and makes this, aesthetic thing for him to wear the hands on him. And these hands on him have become some kind of leash for him, because he says that, he feels sick to his stomach, he wants to throw up when he wears them, but it somehow calms his heart. This is really crazy morbid stuff here. Alright, so aside from all that, we're also seeing a younger form of the Doctor in this flashback, and he looks even more like the Doctor from episode 1 here. So if it wasn't already confirmed that these guys are one and the same, I think this is pretty much confirming it, that he is in fact the Doctor who told Izuku that he had no quirk. And of course that leads to so many other possibilities in the storylines of this series. So another thing I want to touch on connected to that is All for One in this flashback as well. So of course we're still not seeing All for One's full face, and I never really understood why this was so prevalent with his character, because every time we see him it's always kind of like an obscured view or a shadow on his face. We never full-blown see his face, not even currently, because he has the potato face after the beatdown from All Might. The closest we ever get to seeing his full face is in the All Might Rising bonus chapter. When we see a close-up of his face, but it's still kind of shadowed in a way. And I was always like, oh, okay, because they just want to keep them shadowy and mysteriously. He's pretty much evil incarnate, so he doesn't really need to have a full face. It's almost like reading a book in a way. You're kind of just making it up for yourself, and you kind of just have this vague thing to go off of, because he doesn't really have much distinguishing features to him. He pretty much looks like a normal adult dude, I guess. But apparently people think that this is because he is Izuku's father, and they don't want to show his face yet because that's going to be a huge reveal in itself. And I certainly hope that that is not the case. Not because I don't think it would be horrible. I don't think it would be horrible if Horikoshi did that. It would just be a little too cliche, and I really don't think Izuku needs that. I think it would be cool if Izuku was just some kid with no quirk, and he worked and got lucky to get what he has. But apparently it doesn't seem like it's heading that way. Based off of the Doctor pretty much at this point being confirmed to be the Doctor that said that he had no quirk, it likely means that they are all tied somehow. So it possibly could mean that All for One is Izuku's father, or something to do with Izuku. I could talk about it for hours, but I don't want to get too much into it in this chapter, because, we need to talk about the chapter, not just the theories revolving around it, but there's a lot going on with the Doctor, All for One, and Izuku, and how they all tie together and the mysteriousness to it. So another thing I like in this chapter is Spinner. So he's not really put on display too much, he's really subtle in this chapter, but it's mainly just the reaction shots we get of him. Because after Tomura, reveals his ambitions and his motivations as to what he wants to do with the world, it kind of throws Spinner off. Everyone else kind of seems to be on board with it, but Spinner is oh man, what did I sign up for? Because remember in the previous, chapter 220, when Spinner is talking to Tomura, he's I joined this because I'm trying to make the world better for heteromorphics and just people with quirks in general. I want to be like Stain. I want to continue his ideologies. But now Tomura's I just want to watch everything burn. I'm going to break this place. And as he gets deeper and deeper into his psychosis, Spinner's wow, dude, I guess we're bad guys, but you're talking about really bad stuff. Spinner remembers in this chapter the conversation that he had with Tomura before, when he's look, what are we doing here? I joined to make this place better, so what are you doing? What are we doing? And before Tomura really gets the chance to answer the question fully, he's just as I was saying, he kind of brushes it off. But now Spinner is fully seeing what Tomura is all about, and he just wants to destroy everything, pretty much. And another thing that we see is that when Tomura does say he wants to destroy everything, we see like this collage of people and things as he's saying this in the background. You know, see a whole different bunch of people, but one of the people we see is Stain. And it's not just like a flashback of Stain when he was in his prime or something. It's like Stain in Tartarus, the prison that All for One is in. So this could mean that, you know, Tomura still wants to kill Stain. Like, I'm sure that he hasn't, like, reconciled with him. He still probably doesn't like him because of what happened in Camino and all of the stuff that led up to that. But it's like, wow, if Tomura does in fact kill Stain or has something to do with that, that means Spinner is totally going to turn on him. He might even turn on him before that, but I was always wondering, like, what is Spinner's significance to this story? Why is he so prevalent? He doesn't seem to be particularly powerful. We don't even know his quirk yet, but still, he's prevalent. And it's like he didn't go away at the, you know, at the time that the other ones went away, like Muscular, Mustard, Moonfish. You know, those were introduced at the same time as Spinner, but Spinner stuck around. And I'm thinking it's because his significance is that he is going to turn on Tomura and possibly go over to the hero side or something. I just don't see things staying the way they are, especially after the reveals that we're getting in this chapter with Spinner. I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens with his storyline now. Another person who could be affected by this is, of course, Toga, because she loves Stain as well, you know, in her own way, in her own crazy way. But she actually even kind of touches on this when she says, hey, does that mean the things that I like will get destroyed too? And then Tomura is like, the wishes of my comrades are separate, do as you like, and she gets happy. But I think this is kind of pointing to, like, Tomura does want Stain dead. And he might even kill Stain, because I think it's very likely, like, there's like an 85% chance that there's going to be some kind of prison break, and, you know, Stain is going to be involved in that somehow. So Tomura might kill Stain when they're breaking All for One out of prison or something, and this might affect Toga and Spinner. But I'm really looking forward to see what happens with that too. I mean, there's so much greatness just building up right now, and it's just like not even on the side of the heroes. It's just like all the villain stuff, and it's so intriguing. All right, on to the next one. So Yuchiko says something particularly interesting in this chapter towards the end. He says, I've been preparing some research for you, but you're too weak. I can't hand it over yet. You'll just have to have the bare minimum. So I'm not exactly sure what he's talking about here. Is he talking about Gigantomachia? Or is Gigantomachia the bare minimum that he's talking about? Because after that he says, you know, that thing isn't so naive to accept you as easily from the bottom of its heart. You will have to give everything. You pretty much have to prove that you are strong to him and grab it with your own hands. So is he talking about Gigantomachia being the bare minimum, and that the research in quotations that he's talking about is like his ultimate thing? Because we know that he's not even talking about the high-end Nomus here, because before he says the research, he says, I had planned to cooperate from the start. These little guys here are part of that. And then we see it pan over to the high-end Nomus and the tanks. And then after that, he says, I've been preparing some research for you. So, man, is this like implying that there's some kind of like ultimate Nomu that the Doctor has possibly? And if not a Nomu, it could be some kind of power-up thing or a quirk alteration. Who knows? There's so many things that this could be, but it's really giving us hope as to, like, the high-end Nomus and Gigantomachia aren't the tip of the iceberg here. There is even something bigger than that, whether it be, you know, some kind of offensive, physical thing or something different. You know, we'll see what happens, but, man, so much exciting stuff coming out of this chapter. Also, another thing that I really enjoyed in this chapter is friggin' Dobby. Like, I love Dobby so much. I just like how he's like, I don't give a crap about Tomura's thoughts and whatnot. I just do whatever I want, but I'm still with you guys, okay? I'll still call you leader. I'm still a part of this cool gang, but yeah, I'm going to do what I want. And then Tomura is just like, looks over him and gives him like this awesome remark. He's like, well, I look forward to seeing who you bring back. So it's like they have this awesome camaraderie right now. And it's come such a long way, because we remember, like, when Tomura and Dobby first met, they were at each other's throats, and they kind of didn't like each other for like the longest time, but now they kind of have this weird mutual respect, and I just love it so much, because, like, it's like Tomura's like, yeah, you know what, you're right, but you know, I know you're my boy. I know we're all in this together, so you know what, do whatever you want and just bring back someone special for me. That moment is just so awesome. It's like the evil version of Mirio and Fumijiki. I just love it so much. So while we're still on Dabi, another fun little dynamic here is him and Yujiko. Like, Yujiko just randomly really likes Dabi. He's like, his taste, his aesthetic sense, they're perfect. Such strong connection. So that's cool that they have this little thing going on between them. But it's also showing us how the whole Endeavor high-end scenario got set up. Apparently it was just because Yujiko deemed Dabi worthy to do it. And we also see him give... we used to see Yujiko give the League of Villains these communicator things. So that's, you know, showing us how Dabi was able to communicate with Yujiko back when he was running away from the heroes coming after him after he encountered Endeavor. Because at that moment he's like, Yujiko, help me out here. And then we saw the Black Liquid Quirks take him over and get him out of there. So the Black Liquid Quirk, one of my theories about this actually came true. So in my previous review, I was confused as to what was going on with this quirk. Is it Yujiko's quirk that's doing it, or does he have a Nomu doing it for him? And it turns out, yes, he does have a Nomu doing it for him, and it's like a cute little weird Nomu by the name of John-chan. He has like sneakers on, and he has these tuning knobs in his brain. Very cool, but very creepy at the same time. So I like that, how he's like, he has this weird name, John. He's like a little, so he has like all these little experiments. Like, all the Nomus don't come in big packages. There's also like the little utility ones that just have like a simple teleportation quirk. He might even have more quirks in there, but we'll see what happens. So now let's get into the end of this chapter, because John-chan sends the League back to Gigantomachia, and we get the awesome delivery from Tomura when he's like, the king has returned, and then Gigantomachia is like, king is one who commands respect, someone who is strong. And then it cuts, to the final, I guess, part of this pseudo flashback in a way. And he's like, it's been a long story, the battle with Gigantomachia, this is our reality, and now our feature presentation, the destruction of the League of Villains. So this kind of worries me. Simply because I'm like, does this mean that we're not going to see their fight with Gigantomachia, and it's kind of just going to cut off from here, and we're not going to see the villains anymore, and it's just going to go back to what's going on with the Liberation Army, because we see the Detnerat president in one of the final panels of this chapter. So, I mean, it could happen, and it would kind of suck, but I understand. Maybe Horikoshi thinks that, like, we don't necessarily need to see the fight with Gigantomachia. We kind of just... It's implied that one way or another that they were able to tame him and bring him over to their side. It would be cool to see it, but at the same time, it's like, I understand if they don't. So the final 3 panels of this chapter are particularly interesting, because like I just said, we see the Detnerat president smiling, an intrepid smile, but then above him, we see what appears to be Girin's scarf and like a finger or a hand in it. So I think this means that they've just been torturing Girin, because we know that they have Girin from the end of chapter 219. Like, they captured Girin and they're trying to get info on the League from him. So I think this is telling us that they've just been torturing the hell out of him. I don't think he's dead, because they said that they needed him and that they're going to spend a lot of time together. So I don't think Girin's dead, but they're definitely torturing him. At least that's what appears what's going on here. And then the building that we see in the final panel, this is like the hideout or the base of the 8 Precepts of Death, Chisaki's gang. This is like their Yakuza base, but we see that it's still tied off with, I guess that's like caution tape, crime scene stuff. So does this mean that Girin gave the Detnerat president information on the 8 Precepts of Death as a way to avert him from the League? Or did the information that he gave the Detnerat company lead to Chisaki? Not entirely sure, but we see Chisaki actually in this chapter, like a little flashback of him when Tomura is talking about his ambitions and what he wants to do. And then now we're seeing the 8 Precepts base at the end of this chapter. So what does it mean? Not entirely sure, but we're going to find out in the next chapter. Maybe something to do with what they were working on, or maybe there's more to that place that only Girin knows about, possibly. Really looking forward to seeing what happens with that, but Like I said, I still want to see the lead take on Gigantomachia, and I hope they don't skip over it. But, like I said, I could see Horikoshi doing that, and we'll just go right back into what the Liberation Army is doing instead. But if it does happen, hey, I've had fun with these past 3 chapters. They were amazing. So much character development to the League of Villains. Truly incredible. I've enjoyed this so much. So that's pretty much it for the review today, guys. Let me know what you think about all this in the comments. Where do you think things are headed with the 8 precepts? What do you think about Tomura's origin? And is Yujiko the same doctor from the first episode? So if you liked the video, please give it a like. I also have a Patreon. It gives you access to a Discord and a Q&A video that I do on this channel every week. And if you haven't already, please subscribe as well. Have a great day, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.